Hi, I'm Amanda Masaccio, the Resource Sharing Specialist here at Rails, and I want to thank you all for attending our presentation on BrainHQ today, to those here in Burr Ridge and those of you online. Part of my position here is to coordinate group purchases, so if you have any ideas for group purchases, please contact me via email or phone, which I will send out my contact information. All right, I'd like to introduce Kurt Zaslow and Angie Shanebeck, sorry. Did I get that wrong? They're here from DEMCO to give you some information on BrainHQ.
So thank you, Amanda and Rails, for hosting us today. Just for quick introductions, both myself and Angie were on the New Growth Initiative team at DEMCO. And the exciting part about these positions is that it allows us to go and talk to libraries across the country and figure out what's working, what they're having challenges with. So it's very exciting to hear what they're doing and what they're thinking about. And part of the reason I give you that is just a little bit of context around how we arrived here at BrainHQ. And that a couple years ago, as Angie and others were traveling from DEMCO talking to public libraries specifically, they were mentioning how a lot of the resources that they have, a lot of the funding that they have goes towards family and young children, which we see is very popular. But a number of them started raising their hand, and a theme emerged around how do we connect with adults in our area? What can we do to more connect with the community? And that led us to do some additional research about what are adults interested in. We understand demographics are changing throughout the library and communities. And we eventually landed on, through talking with people in research, how important brain health was to people, not a surprise, as we're all getting older. That allowed us to do some additional research. We eventually partnered with a company called Posit Science. They're out in California. They're founded by an extremely bright team of neuroscientists. For those of you who have either experienced or played around with brain fitness exercises, it's not that it's brand new on the market today, but what we felt very comfortable partnering with Posit around was the clinical research, the number of peer-reviewed studies that they have, and really the proof to say, does this really work? And ultimately, we feel it does. So it made for a nice partnership that we started last year. And since then, we've been talking, and again, introducing this to public libraries, really as a gap around adult programming that they're feeling today and how to connect with adults and or seniors in their community today. So I just lay that out as a little bit of context for how we arrived at this. You'll see a theme that this isn't something that we view as a standalone e-resource that you just put on your website and hopefully people come to it, but very much this integration theme about how you can connect it with your other programming that you may have today. Maybe it's a new outreach option that you can go out to the community with. But what I hope to do today over the next half hour is really show you a little bit about the science behind this. I'll actually show you a demo of some of the exercises and the landing page itself. And then lastly, the impact that the public library can have on the community. At any time, if you have questions, for those of you in the room, certainly let me know. If you're online, you can let Amanda know. She's obviously monitoring the chat and questions too, so at any time, just let me know if you need additional information or would like me to clarify something. So I talked about how we arrived here. Again, it's all about engaging adults in a new way. But what we've really found, and it really helped to even connect with Veronica early this year, as we talked about BrainHQ and where this new adult programming fits into libraries, is how well it aligns with the library mission around educational and lifelong learning opportunities. As I'll get into here, with the resources around kids and families today, it was kind of this next step. Okay, we're doing all these programs today. What do adults care about as we age? Maintaining our brain health. Here's a nice opportunity to connect with them that's truly educational and connects with them as we all age in the community. I'll spend a little bit of time here just talking about the science behind it, and every time I get to this slide here, I love the image behind it, because right here on a Thursday morning, we're all scattered a little bit in terms of what should we be doing professionally, what should I be doing personally. I got soccer games tonight, I got this overwhelming schedule, all this stuff is, swirling around in my head. But when you think about the brain, why it's getting so much attention these days, there's part of the logical piece, right? It's the nerve center of the body. It affects everything that we do today. But when you start to think about the changing demographics in our community, you look at the numbers behind it for the why people care about it so much. When you look at AARP stats and different research out there, obviously right behind physical health is mental health as we're getting older. How do I maintain this mental capacity? We're all living longer. There's a lot of opportunities out there for us. How do I maintain mental health capabilities as we get older? And this is interesting for us just to see the numbers behind this. I mean, we're already to 100 million people that are 50 plus. The town that I live in is Verona, Wisconsin, right outside of Madison. That's like everyone in our town that's turning 50 plus. We had an interesting discussion. And again, this applies if you think about your own communities. Obviously, baby boomers are active, alive, and well. We talked to some communities. I think it was at PLA. We talked to Arapahoe Library District out in Colorado. They said 50% of our population served is 50 plus. So obviously, communities are different. The demographics vary. But you guys know the demographics, obviously, of your patrons more than we do. But I'm sure there's a healthy percentage of and again, we say 50 plus here, but adults can be anyone 30, 40 plus who can benefit from brain health that are looking for this opportunity to connect with your library in a different way. With that, I just wanted to pause, and whether it's to people here in the room or even online, I'm always curious to know, I mean, this is kind of what we heard again from many libraries and through the course of our PLA and ALA conferences. But is adult programming something that's a priority in your library? I'm always curious to kind of how that fits on your radar screen. If it is a high priority or something that maybe you're thinking about just to try some new things, or something that, okay, it's kind of down on the priority list. I'm always curious just to see and hear what that looks like.
Well, at my library, it's not as.
Sorry. Without the microphone, the people online can hear you. There you go. Thank you.
Well, at my library, it's not quite as high a priority as the programming for the kids and teens.
Sure.
That usually comes first.
Is it something, I'm just curious, and that matches frequently what we hear, kids and teens. Is it anything that you guys, do you have specific, are you looking to grow adult programming, or do you have something that you hear from the patrons about we're looking for more options?
Yes, to both.
Okay.
Yes, to both.
Okay.
Mhm.
So there is that openness of what else could we be doing? Because part of what Angie and I hear a lot that's part of the challenge, is what's the next new thing that we could be offering. There's your traditional, right, coloring clubs are everywhere, your book clubs. There's a lot of different classes for adults and wellness fairs. But it's always that challenge of what's new, what might resonate, what do they care about? I don't know if there's anyone.
Yes, it comes online.
Okay.
Oh, one member said, not a priority for patrons here, but thinking it might be great for staff. And then another said, it is a high priority.
Okay. So thank you for your feedback. I'm always just, again, curious about, certainly the family and kids connection resonates, but how hot is this in terms of connecting with adults? I'm always curious to kind of get the pulse of what people are hearing and thinking. So thank you for that. So one thing that we found very interesting, and this hopefully doesn't scare anyone too much, but as I look at these smiling, carefree faces in this picture, is that the brain is actually firing on all cylinders, peak performance in your late 20s and early 30s. For me, that is already in the rearview mirror. And again, not to cause anyone to cringe, but I'm just sharing the science behind why, again, the mental health and this Use It or lose it capacity here of brain health is so top of mind for many is that this shows what's happening to all of us as we age, both in terms of memory and cognitive speed. And what I like to think about this is, today I'm kind of cruising along. If my knee hurts, I go to the doctor. It's a physical pain. I'm not necessarily thinking about my brain health today, but when I look at this and I think of how many times I need to have my girls call my cell phone when I get home because I can't remember where I put it. I can't remember my keys as much as where I set them down. I can't remember names and faces like I used to. And part of, I smile and can chalk it up to multitasking. But there's a part of me that looks at this and says, oh my gosh, these senior moments that I typically associated with my grandparents and older relatives is already happening in your mid-40s, and kind of looking at this downhill slide that we're on, and I love how it says it gets worse, ... right? I mean, not to be too ominous, but it very much emphasizes and reinforces why people think about this so much. Posit science is very clear around this to say this is not the cure-all for, stave off Alzheimer's or dementia, but these exercises, if you get enough sleep and you eat right and you do all the other things we should be doing every day, can actually rewire and strengthen your brain for the better over time, which at least when I see this slide gives me a sense of hope. Okay, there's things I do have that are in my control that I can do to, start this and then kind of go on the uphill slide again, because this is happening to all of us. And Angie, if you want to jump in at any time, and feel free.
I'll use the microphone real quick. One of the things I can share about this is this slide here, and the information that Kurt was just sharing comes out of a presentation that we sponsored at ALA in 2015. And this is directly material from Henry Monka. He is a neuroscientist and CEO of Posit Science. So when Kurt talked about all the research and clinical studies that had been done, so this is their data. This comes out of their research that they've done. And the chief scientist in the development of BrainHQ is a gentleman named Michael Merzenich, and he is well renowned and regarded in his field. And we also did a webinar series following that ALA presentation. So that was in the fall of 2015, and that's available on our ideas.demco.com site. But when Kurt earlier was talking about adult programming, we had over 700 people register for this webinar. And everybody was hungry for ideas for how to engage adults in their community and bring them into their library. So again, recognizing the shift in demographics, and everybody was hungry for ideas. So again, as Kurt was talking about how these brain exercises, and he'll go into this in more detail, is part of a healthy lifestyle, right? So there's already things that people are coming to your library seeking, different information and different parts of your collection. So about health and wellness and how to stay active and how to eat healthy and stress management. And those are all components of living a brain healthy lifestyle. And the earlier in our lives we all start developing these habits and normalizing this as our way of life, this is how it really becomes powerful and impactful. And I don't want to take away from the things Kurt will talk about, but we've been working on this for a while, and really in our partnership with Posit Science and BrainHQ, they do just bring a wealth of information and resources to this as well.
So thank you, Angie. She mentioned here where we start to get a little bit now to the transition to where the public library plays in this. What I wanted to do was just share a little bit about the science behind it. This comes from an AARP study, and I'm not sure what the 10th person was thinking about brain health here, but it makes sense to us. that as we age, brain health is important. The challenge that we've been hearing from patrons and other users is, what do you do about it? It's not an easy thing, again, that you just go to the doctor. It's not something, again, that I mentioned, is it top of mind for me right now? Not today for some, I'm into my daily routine. But what do I actually do once I recognize that I should be doing something about it? Where do I go? What do I actually do to improve on it? And this is where we feel the public library comes into play. They're already patrons are coming to you guys already. They're looked upon as trusted advisors in the community for providing a wealth of health-related information. You have books, DVDs, classes, events, wellness fairs that you're already doing today. So our hope is that it seems to be a natural transition. All these different physical health ideas, why not incorporate brain fitness as another touch point that you can really impact the community with? So with that, I'm going to transition and show people exactly what some of these exercises look like, because I think we're at that stage before I get into the impact of the library that it would be fun to show you what we're really talking about. Before I would get to this screen, just to let everyone here and on the phone know, this is similar to other online e-resources that you have, a Mango or a lynda.com. It lives on your library's website. They access it via a widget. Once they would click on that icon, they're asked to put in their library card number, so it's authenticated against your ILS, making sure that this is a valid patron that belongs to your library. Once that is blessed and they're stamped that they are indeed an active user, they create an account with BrainHQ. That is done for privacy reasons, and then I will show you a little bit later, the library still gets an aggregate report of who's using it, so you can still see the usage statistics around it to see what all your patrons are doing. I'll show you that in a little bit later. But what I've landed on here then is actually what the BrainHQ landing page looks like. And I'm even going to use there we go. So we have on this landing page here your 6 core areas of brain training focus. So each of these different colored squares represents an area that you could pick from that you would like to start your brain training exercises with. On the bottom part of the screen here is where you can set up a personalized training schedule. There's different challenges that you can set for yourself, you can do with others, but allows this to become part of your routine. You can get reminders and really set a schedule for yourself. And then I'm also going to show you up on top here some of the different, where you can monitor your progress and just some of the dashboards that you can see. So I like to show this because, again, some people are more familiar with maybe apps that they have tried themselves. But the fun thing to do about this, and I'll kind of talk through this here as I go, I'll show you a couple different ones here. I like to do divided attention. This is one that my wife reminds me I need help with on a daily basis. But these exercises here, and I'll start off with what you would think would be pretty basic and easy. But a couple things to call out here. Before you do any exercise, it gives you very clear instructions and copy on what you're looking at and what you're trying to do. These exercises, and you'll notice I'm trying to term them as exercises, not just games. These exercises, and part of the reason we felt so comfortable partnering with Posit was the intentionality that's built on how this all builds and on these different exercises, and that's part of the science behind it, how you can actually strengthen your brain. These aren't one-off games that if you play them, you can kind of get to a point, as you can with all games, you can kind of develop compensatory skills, and I just want to beat that game. These are all different exercises, and I'll go through here. So this one starts out very basic. Are these the same color? If I am on a computer, obviously I have my yes and no arrow keys. I like doing it on my iPhone or a Surface. It tends to be, I like it because it's a little more interactive. So it gives you a little quiz. So this is a demo account, and I hope what you're seeing is that, and I'm just not going to answer here on purpose because the computer is going to start to sense that I'm getting them wrong. So you can see the progress bar up on top here is going to the left and in red. But when it first started out, it's harder than you think. When I first started this and said, shapes, that's no big deal. Even when I'm talking to you guys, it shows me how I have to focus and block out everything. There's certain times of the day that I have to do this. So if I stop talking and just start answering here, you can see that it's starting to go to the right. But again, even for me to do the click, the yes and the no to figure out which one, it's taking focus, and I have to, again, find a time where I'm not talking, I'm not doing multi-things. And again, the exercises here are sensing, okay, I'm getting it, I have to slow down for this person. The next one in here, after you would do the shapes, is all about then identifying, it shows you shapes, but are these the same color? So it's causing me to identify my brain to focus and identify something else now, where I'm seeing shapes pop up, but I'm saying yes or no to the color. Just again, they're all building on each other, very intentional in the way that they're structured. The other one that I like to show is one of my favorites called Target Tracker. This is one, if you think of, we're in the baseball season here now. If you think of that game that they put on the scoreboard where they hide some peanuts underneath the different helmets, and then they start moving the helmets around very fast, and you have to guess which helmet. It has that same methodology to it. So this one's going to say, here's 4 initial bubbles. Follow these around and then try to pick out where they are within this group. And if you think it's hard, that's part of it. But again, when I first started with this, and again, this is a demo account, that's why we've done this quite a bit. When you first start out, there's 2 bubbles that start in a mix of 5 or 6 that are going very slow. It's a little easier. Now we've built up, instead of 2, it's 4 in a larger group of bubbles, and as you can see, they were going relatively quick. So it really causes you to, again, focus, and the point of these is that it's harder than you think. So this is what it would look like again, and hopefully this comes across to those. And so again, very intentional, something that you have to be focused on and find that time when it really works for you. So I just show this because people, after talking a little bit about the science behind it and where we're going for the public library impact, it's always nice to see what are you actually talking about? What do these exercises look like? And I would characterize these as fun, frustrating, and engaging all at the same time. There's many times I play this. I've done it at conferences. I was doing it with my neighbors the other day. And you start to get frustrated, like, are you kidding me? I can't figure out where these bubbles are going. In the beginning, there's only 2 of them. But it's that sense of, okay, now I got to do it again to see if I can keep getting a better score around doing this. So it's meant to be a little, how do I do better?
Kurt, if you show the progress tab. So Kurt's showing up here is actually my personal training account. So I'll just share a little bit of my story with this. If you look at this is days trained, but if you look at stars earned, that tells you how many different exercises I've done and in the different areas that I've done. If you go to levels complete, again, shows that in the different areas within each of those 6 cognitive areas. And under percentile, because I have chosen to put in my personal information, what that is doing is comparing me to other people who use BrainHQ that are my same age. So it's showing that I'm, in general, in that 80th percentile. But to the point he was just talking about improving and doing this over and over again to improve my score, I can tell you that when I first started working, I am the quintessential classic case of an aging brain, right? Like I have kids, I couldn't remember people's names. I would say words, they would come out backwards, or I would come and say the complete wrong word, and my kids would call me out on it. And as soon as I said it, I would realize that. And I just chalked it all up to being busy, right? I didn't really think about it like you would a physical ailment, as Kurt referenced. And then I learned about this, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what's happening to me. And it really brought me comfort to know there was something I could do about it. So when I started training, I too was like, this is as good as I can do. And then I got sucked into it, and I wanted to improve my score, and I started testing different times a day. But here, what you're seeing on the screen is actually my improvement over time. So every time you do a game for the first time, you get a baseline score, and then when you do it again, you see how you've improved. And so you start having that little competitiveness. Well, now what can I do? How many circles can I get? How can I improve? So one of the challenges I have is navigation. And it's not necessarily directional as in driving a car navigation. It's more of a spatial concept game. And so the fact that I have improved my score by 31 points is like a huge victory to me and is encouraging me to continue to play this. The things that I was experiencing, I can tell a noticeable improvement since I have been doing BrainHQ. So just to give you a sense of kind of that dashboard and what's possible is that, you are getting that constant feedback. And there's so many levels to this. There's 26 games. There's close to 900 levels of training. So you can always challenge yourself, and there's an endless supply. So again, back to that point of compensatory strategies, it's really hard. It's not designed to be able to beat it that way, right? You're playing against yourself, and you're always trying to improve.
So I'll pause there just to see if there's any questions in the room or online before I go into the next piece. But I guess the key takeaway from here, not only to illustrate some of the exercises, but authenticate it against your ILS. Can access it via the library's website, so online, or there's an app for it. So there is whatever device you are comfortable with, you can use it via that. The library would then get the credit for it, but yes, ma'am.
My question was, when you were showing us the exercise with the matching of the colors or shapes, was that the speed at which you have to respond to either say yes or no? Because that was very quick.
So that's a very good question. The reason it was quick is that Angie has been doing this for a while, and she's at that speed. When you start out on some of I'll use the bubble one again, it's literally 2 bubbles going very slow in a group of a couple. Okay. So it's gradually building over time. As you get better, the games get more challenging in the speed, because I'm glad you asked that, because I like to show that for 2 reasons. One, to answer your question, yes, it builds over time. It doesn't start out that fast. But then secondly, to emphasize again, they're harder than you think, right? Because it was going quick.
But is it going to build at your speed, or is it just going to build on its own automatically? And the reason why I'm asking is that I can't use a conventional mouse, I use a trackball. And at the speed that those colors and shapes were changing, there's no way that I could even get my trackball back and forth to either answer yes or no quick enough. So I'm thinking of someone, if they're challenged somewhat in using the mouse, or if they have to use an alternative like a trackball, they're going to get frustrated on a different level.
So with that, you also don't have to use the mouse. So when I'm using like my laptop, I'm just pressing the arrow keys for yes and no. So you do not have to rely on a mouse. And if you have an iPad, there's an app that you can download to a tablet or a smartphone. So then it's just a touch screen. But that's also, so ironically enough, that was one of those things, learnings over time, that as doing the exercise, it's not just knowing the answer. You have to process it. Then you have to communicate that to your fingertips to press the right arrow key. You know, you get into this yes, no, and I'm physically saying right, no, left, yes, you know, to press the right arrow key. And I'm also competing against myself, trying to make myself go faster, right? So that's just all part of that game psyche that, you know, they've designed in, so.
Thank you.
I actually like doing it on my iPhone. That's my most popular, or my tablet, just because it is a little more interactive. I can just touch the screen versus that extra step, what arrow am I doing? So, any other questions or on that piece of it? Nope. Okay, so the last piece of this here, hopefully this is starting to make sense here, a little bit of how we're building this, the science behind it, some of the intentionality around the exercises that you can use on whatever device you're comfortable with. And now would be curious to get your thoughts after we go through this, the impact that the public library can then have on the community. As I started out by saying, one of the pieces of BrainHQ that we are really excited about is how it aligns with a lot of the mission statements around education and lifelong learning opportunities. But I challenge libraries to think about, you know, so I'm not sure you probably thought about today when you started your day, oh, us as librarians, can we really impact safer driving in our community? That's maybe not something you start your day thinking, is this something that we have the power to impact? But when you look at, again, the science behind it, the studies that they've done, it makes sense through control groups saying, okay, and they partnered with an actual insurance company, a group of adults that went through these exercises, a group that did not, and then measured their driving, and they were actually able to prove, boy, drivers and adults that went through this, they were actually able to speed up their reaction times, which in turn led them to be safer drivers, which then if you play that out, actually cut down their at-fault crash risk by almost half. Which is very interesting because, again, thinking of the big picture, lifelong learning, education, but when you think of what these, again, increased power and fine-tuned brain can really mean, that becomes very interesting to think about what it's actually doing with your community. So, and again, these are just a couple of the studies that are publicly out there. Driving, and again, when you think about adult is a huge one. Improving your memory, giving your memory a boost of 10 years. And then you also think about generally you're just feeling more aware. There's this sense of being more self-confident, really helps offset depressive symptoms that we may go through as we age. So I like the what if behind this because it's a different way of thinking about an offering that can really be a powerful impact within the community that may not be something that's always top of mind for what you're looking to connect with. So the other thing that seems to be popular, and these have come out of our conversations over the past year, especially at PLA and ALA this year, as we talk to people, is a couple things. I had mentioned earlier where we made the transition to where the public libraries can do this go-to trusted advisor. You have all this content already. So we've had librarians, as we talk to this offering with them, say, that would be great to help supplement our wellness, our nutrition class that we're having, our retirement class. We would love to build on and bring more people into the library. We have others when they start thinking about the power of, wow, community outreach is a big part of our strategic plan, knowing that you can use this on a smartphone. We want to take the library out into the community and start thinking of fun ways to impact brain health. There are some that are obviously thinking of a combination of both of those. But it's this list here when we start thinking about who might not be frequent users of your library, that it starts to get into some interesting and creative ideas on how to connect with them. We've naturally been talking about adults, right? Anyone 30 plus, in theory, we all need help, little brain boost. seniors, thinking about those that can benefit from this. But there's a lot of clinical research and studies from Posit Science about other communities and patrons that could benefit from this. BrainHQ is being used out at Walter Reed today for veterans. So if you think about your communities, again, maybe those that aren't coming as frequently just to the library for a multitude of reasons, maybe this is a new way to connect with them, whether it's veterans. There's studies around stroke and cardio patients. Those who are suffering from cancer develop what is a chemo brain. So it's these different mental stimulation exercises that can affect those in your community, as well as just a different number of the skill positions. So if we have others that are thinking about partnering with hospitals, partnering with businesses, again, just maybe another touch point for the public library to be thought of connecting with different groups that can be very strategic. I love this quote. This is a recent quote that we got from a library out on the East Coast that has been using this for a couple months. But I thought it emphasized, again, maybe not connecting with people who are frequent or regular users of the library. So I love not only is there excitement around it, but people who aren't regular users, who haven't used their library cards in a long time, I found very exciting. Because again, this is something new. Again, when you're thinking about new ways to connect with adults in the community, something that they care about, has become very interesting to see where this goes. We have other libraries that have signed up for this and are in the process of launching it, where they had to actually put a widget that said coming soon, because they've been talking to their patrons about it, and it's just, they're starting to get interest about, okay, we're ready for this. It's something, brain health is very much in the media, it's top of mind. And so it's a new offering that's kind of exciting for libraries to use. The other thing to call out here, we do have, it's not just bigger libraries, we have libraries that are big, medium, and small that are using this today, and we tried to list a couple of those. Wigan is out on the East Coast, Vail out in Colorado, just a couple thousand people. We have others, the Nashville and Arapahoe that I referenced earlier, with some pretty decent sized populations served, that are all finding different ways to connect with either bringing people in or going out into the community with it. So there seems to be a different flavor and appetite for how you can use this depending on how your library is. The last thing to call out, I've been talking a bit about how this looks from the patron side. Angie showed some of the different dashboards. What we also realize what's very important is to show what it looks like from a library perspective. So knowing that there's, again, competing budgets for online and e-resources, this is an example of what the usage report looks like for BrainHQ. And what I like to highlight on here is a couple things. So it's certainly important that we call out who's using it, for how long, how much time they have spent, so you can get your ROI or data and statistics to share with your team. What's also, and I hope you're sensing a theme here, interesting about this, is that you can actually see then the average real world gains. Again, this is done through studies that Posit Science did with an insurance company. So you can see what this actually did from a dollar and productivity standpoint for people who did these exercises versus not. So it's kind of an interesting way to quantify, again, the impact and ROI behind these exercises. And we've started to get some very interesting comments then about the bottom half of this. Again, Angie had referenced the percentile that shows what she's compared against others. And then if you think about that from a couple levels up, okay, this is what my library is now doing to impact memory. What is it doing to impact brain speed and attention? And so not only do you show the data behind this, but you start showing your library board and team about, again, what the library is doing to impact the community. This can be a powerful way to show what you're actually doing in that measurement behind it. So this brings us to our Rails and Demco partnership. This is based on populations served. Is how the different pricing structures are broken out. Obviously, we would provide a discount for Rails members. we've talked to a lot of, I know I have personally over the last year, especially at PLA and ALA, I've talked to a lot of Rails members who all said, Kurt, this sounds interesting. We're not going to do anything until we meet with the Rails team. That's how we purchase things like this. So we're excited to come down and meet with Amanda here and provide a discount structure in place. The other thing to call out here is just the promotional materials. So realizing that there's a how do we promote and launch this, we have posters, bookmarks, table tents, and shelf talkers, and I provided some of the different images here that we would send to your location. We send you an initial supply of these to each location. There would be a website then for future needs that you may want to download if you need others of those, but we've heard from many others that we can't just let this sit on our website. Yeah, we have some creative ideas internally about how we want to launch and promote this, but we still need some traditional ideas of placing posters at the right spot, placing bookmarks at key locations to let people know that this is out there. We've also had fun conversations about is there social media things we can help out with? Is there tweets? Is there Facebook? And different things like that to, again, let people know that you have it. And those are all things Angie and I are welcome to discuss with you about options that we have today or what support do you need in the future to help let people know about this. So I'll end it there. I put my contact information there. If you have any technical questions, if you have any pricing questions, anything else that may help about, hey, how might this apply to our library? We're thinking of this. How might this fit in? These are all discussions that we can have with you, and just would encourage you to reach out to us if there's anything we can help clarify for you. But we're excited about it. We have about 20 libraries that are using it right now today. And again, from all different sizes, but the general feedback is it's a new thing. People seem to be gravitating towards it, and it's a new way for the public library to impact brain health, a very key topic, with adults that we're looking to connect with. So some very encouraging initial results, and looking forward to partnering with any of those who are interested. I'll pause there if there's any questions, again, in the room that we are online or on the phone. If you'd like to bring them up, happy to chat with you about them.
Well, thank you all for attending. You can also contact me for any questions as well, and if you would like a quote, I can certainly facilitate that as well. So thank you very much, and as I said before, if you have any potential group purchases that you'd like us to investigate, I'd be happy to get that information as well from you. Thank you.